Sunbelt expectations versus reality. Let's start with the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Dave Schultz back on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Hopefully everyone is having a good weekend. Didn't do Friday, doing Sunday, and we'll have one and go every day from here on out, at least Monday through Friday. We are hearing about some quarterback battles, Southern Miss, maybe Texas State, and some others. And obviously there are others that are settled. The Ragin Cajuns had a scrimmage on Saturday. That's Ben Woldridge. We'll get to that in a second. And Carter Bradley in South Alabama had a scrimmage as well. I wanted to do this, and I found it interesting because it's expectations versus reality, and everybody has their own reality. We see that every day. It doesn't even have to be sports. But Scott Watkins of the Sun Herald, our good buddy who comes on the show all the time, he actually broke down, he went through the entire schedule and picked all the games. And so I'm going to react to what he said because I don't really believe it. Like for the Ragin Cajuns, he has them 6-6. He's got Georgia State. He's got Georgia State beating the Ragin Cajuns, and I don't know if that's true. The over-under for UL is 7.5, and I think that's a good number. All right, so let's talk expectations. Expectations for the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns are basically competing for the conference championship. That is what is expected out of the Ragin Cajuns year in, year out. Does not matter if the former coach takes a bunch of players and a bunch of coaches. They're expected to compete at the highest level in the Sun Belt. It does not matter if you have a turnover in quarterback. You're supposed to win. All right. Mark Hudspeth set that mark, right? They went to a bowl game 4 straight times, never won the Sun Belt under Hud, tied it a couple of times. And then, of course, Billy Napier played for the championship right in 18, 19, no championship game in 20, right? That was a sore spot with Ragin Cajuns fans. And finally won it in 21, right? That was the 13-1 season. Okay. And so that's where the program is. It doesn't even matter bowl game. I have an issue with you can't do much better than the New Orleans Bowl as far as I'm concerned because you just won't. You'll get more people go to the New Orleans Bowl because of all the alumni in New Orleans, and it's easy for people to travel compared to, a few hundred that'll, get on a plane and go to the Cure Bowl. So the expectations, I'm not sure match what is reality. And that's what I have questions on. I'm kind of going to do that throughout the league. Maybe it's kind of the preview of each team. So the reality, as I'm still looking for, here we go. All right. I have Scott Watkins' breakdown of every single team. He does have South Alabama going 11-1. I think their only loss is to Tulane. Yeah. And they beat Tulane, lose at Oklahoma State. He's got them going 8-0 in the Sun Belt. He is one of the few not overlooking them. Louisiana, he's got them 6-6. He actually has them losing to Old Dominion, losing at home to Buffalo, beating UAB on the road, losing at home to Texas State, and losing at home to Georgia State. I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So, but the reality is, when it comes to the Ragin Cajuns, their starting quarterback is coming off an ACL surgery in November. And it's great that he's back. We'll see how he looks. All right, there are a couple of games in there, right? You get Northwestern State. You're going to ODU. Those aren't the toughest. UAB is at that same level. They've been a really good program since they reinstituted college football. Trent Dilfer making his college coaching debut this year. The biggest one on that first few games is going to be Minnesota, and you'll see where you are at that point in time. So Woldridge has a chance to get his feet wet. But the reality is Ben has never played a full season of college football. Was on the bench at Fresno State, played sparingly. Didn't technically win the job last spring for the Cajuns, but he played so well in camp that he earned playing time. And then Chandler Fields went down, so Ben took over. Then Wooldridge got hurt, and so Chandler took over, and Sion Chris, and yada, yada, yada. So the reality is the Cajuns aren't banking on a quarterback that has all of this experience, right? Like Carter Bradley didn't play much at Toledo, played a little bit at Toledo a couple of years ago, but played a full, basically started every game last year, didn't necessarily play every play, but started every game last year for South Alabama. All right. He's got a full season under his belt. Got banged up in the Southern Miss game, came out for a little bit, did finish it up in the second half. Ben Wooldridge threw 244 passes last year. That's the most he's thrown. So now you're banking on him, and he's coming back from ACL surgery really quickly. If I am the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, I better have a good backup plan, right? Either Chandler Fields or Sion Chris has to be ready. You can't go into the which they should be ready anyways these days, right? With concussions and, just quarterbacks getting hit and you tweak an ankle, right? Anything can happen. You can get a stinger. You got to have a backup ready to go in, and it may be, maybe a bad time of the game. It may be 3rd and 5, and you need a first down to get into field goal range to win the game. So, and in this case, they're dealing with a quarterback that is coming back from a bad knee, and really fast, by the way, really fast. So you better prepare for the backup, and I think that's important. So the expectations are, they should be playing for a championship. Reality is they are banking on a fifth-year quarterback who hasn't played all that much and coming off a knee surgery. Not to be Debbie Downer, but that is the reality. All right. Now, if Ben Wooldridge plays like Ben Wooldridge was playing last year, and we saw glimpses of being very good, all right, against Southern Miss, against South Alabama, and against Troy in games they lost, but he played well, but maybe with a little bit more experience that he had last year, take that into this season. And how can they play better? Now, the question is, in terms of getting those, again, the over-under is 7.5, and I think that's really good because I think they're going to win 7, all right, or 8, because their tough games are on the road. I mean, do you go into Minnesota and think you're going to beat the Gophers? I mean, maybe. I mean, they really could be, let's be honest. They could be 4-0. We'll see what UAB is, right? They should beat Old Dominion. They may even be favored in that ball game. And I still think it's going to be hot down here at the end of September for Buffalo to come down and try and win in the heat may be an issue. And we'll find out more about Buffalo. I don't know that much about them, to be honest with you. But you're getting Texas State at home, Georgia State at home. Watkins has those as losses. I got to see those both as wins. All right, losing at South Alabama, losing. And then he's got, this is the crazy part of him, he's got the Cajuns going to Troy and winning. So I think some of these wins and losses are a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, Scott Watkins. I don't mind telling you so. But I would think that the question is, do they beat UAB? Do you get a win over South Alabama or Troy, right? If you win 2 of those 3 ball games, you're looking at 8 wins. If you win more than that, you may get to 9. All right, so quickly, Northwestern State's a win, Old Dominion's a win, UAB's a win, Buffalo's a win. We'll say Minnesota's a loss. Texas State's a win, that's 5. Georgia State's a win, that's 6. At South Alabama, a loss. Arkansas State is a win. That's now, is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Southern Miss is a win at home. That's 8. And then you get ULM, that's 9. I'd be shocked. If they lose to Texas State and Georgia State at home, that's going to be a rough season for the Ragin' Cajuns. All right. I think the difference between Troy this year and South Alabama are huge. And I think a lot of the experience, although you're going to have to do another quarterback in 2024, you're going to have a bunch of talent surrounding whoever that quarterback is, probably Sion Chris. All right. So I think next year, expectations should be sky high. A couple things. A lot of the guys from Troy will be moving on, and a lot of the guys from South Alabama will be moving on. The main competition in 2024 may be coming from Southern Miss. That could be the big deal in 2024. But I think the Ragin' Cajuns, I'll probably go homer and pick over 7.5. but I think they got a better chance of winning 9 than they do have to winning 6 ball games. I just do. All right, we will talk about, who's going to step up for the Ragin' Cajuns, especially on a defense when we come back. But I do need to tell you about eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to customers, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We are talking expectations versus reality. The reality is, for the Ragin' Cajuns, and we're doing them first, the reality is you got to replace Zion Hill-Green. You got to replace Andre Jones Jr. That's reality. Now, again, not having seen these guys, we're going by what the coaches are telling me. And they have some guys that are stepping up. Mason Narcisse playing inside, sitting behind Zion Hill-Green. Could he be the guy who steps up? Dennis Thomas, the defensive line coach, really went through it, although he may have gone a little bit too far comparing the Ragin' Cajuns defensive line to the 72 Dolphins. But I think he was doing it in the sense of, we don't know these guys yet, right? Andre Jones Jr. had played for a bit. Zion Hill played so long he changed his name, included the green. He was pointing out, so basically Dennis Thomas is saying we don't know who these guys are just yet. So Antoine Bayless, Dennis Thomas was talking about, usually you have one or two things when you're a defensive lineman. You either have strength or you have twitch. So basically, you're either strong or quick. Antoine Bayless seems to be both. And can he make a difference for the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns? He specifically brought up Antoine Bayless. And so the thing is, here, the expectations is that Antoine Bayless could dominate on the Ragin' Cajuns defensive line. The reality is he hasn't played yet for the Ragin' Cajuns. He's a transfer in from Southwest Baptist University. So you have expectations that he's playing really well in camp. He's a really special player, maybe under-recruited, maybe grew at 18. And now he's at the Sunbelt level, at the FBS level, but we haven't seen him play yet. And he's expected to fill some big shoes. Well, that's a lot. All right. You do have some good linebacking core, and you got to fill some spots in the defensive backfield. Trey Amos, taking a little bit of NIL money, which is great for him and his family, but he's playing for the Alabama Crimson Tide now. Who steps up into that role? So again, expectations are that the Cajuns are going to be able to get after the quarterback. Who is that going to be? And the guys that are doing it haven't played a whole bunch. And that was the one thing Dennis Thomas actually brought up. We have to do a better job of creating depth. He said in the bowl game, they had 3 scholarship players who played and 2 preferred walk-ons. They didn't have anybody available to play in that ball game, and it showed because they got tired at the end. And so we have to do a better job, Dennis Thomas saying, we being the Ragin' Cajuns, have to do a better job of making sure we're rotating our guys in on a more regular basis. And in fact, he brought up Zion Hill-Green as an example. Like, he was playing first and second down, and now he's still in there on third down. Maybe we get him out of there. He's playing on the inside. If we want him on third down, maybe we get him out of there on first. Just rotating him in and keeping these guys fresh so they are fresh at the end of the ball game when you need them, at the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter, right? You don't want to necessarily be rotating them in too much, or certainly the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter when, you take the lead on a field goal and you need to stop them from getting a field goal and certainly a touchdown. So expectations are, as I said, that these guys on the defensive line are going to do a good job and fill the shoes of the guys that have left. But the reality is some of them have not played a whole lot at this level, and some of them are just getting to this level. That's expectations versus reality. Kind of a Debbie Downer. I don't really mean to do that, but it just hit me looking at Scott Watkins' thing. And my own reality is that the Ragin' Cajuns are going to win 7-8 ball games. If they pick off one of those teams on the road that we mentioned, or two of them on the road, they could get to 9. Again, I think they got a better shot at doing the 9 than they have the 6. But, and this is all predictions are based, without major injuries, and that's usually the quarterback. All right, let's take one more timeout. When we come back, we'll recap what we've done so far, and we are racing towards 500 subscriptions. It is Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. So a special thanks to everybody. Have had some huge feedback, a lot of comments. I have no idea on how the Sunbelt discussion with the commissioner, went, not spiraling, but, went exponentially crazy yesterday out of nowhere. And so we are, let's say, can we do this real quick? When I started the podcast, we were 27 short of 500. And so you guys have been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. We are, in fact, that's where we are when we're recording this on Sunday. It could be different by the time we record the one for Monday later on tonight. But we're 27 short. Fantastic. Thank you so much. It has really blown up here over the last couple of days out of nowhere. And it is sincerely appreciated. Even the audio portion has gone incredibly well. So thank you so much for that. It is a big deal to Locked On Sunbelt to get to those 500 subscriptions. Everyone knows why. And so it's a big help. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm not sure why I took so long, but I replied to a bunch of comments when I first got up this morning, actually. And so if you do comment, and I hope that you do, and YouTube, it will be me doing the answer. So I do appreciate everybody who watches. Remember, you can also get the audio portion wherever you get your podcast. Most are getting it on Apple Podcast or Spotify. So those are the two most popular ones. All right. So again, thank you so much. We're almost at 500. The goal was September 2nd by opening day, but the way it's worked this past week, maybe we get there this week. Maybe we're 2 weeks ahead of time. And hopefully the idea being by 500 by September 2nd, maybe by Thanksgiving we're at 1,000, or maybe even sooner. Maybe by October we get to 1,000 subscriptions. So thank you so much. Let's wrap things up. Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, David Schultz, wrapping things up. Again, it is expectations versus reality. And I guess to preview South Alabama, I don't understand that. I've said that since the numbers have come out. The expectations are, to me, 10 wins minimum. They've had a bad season if they have less than 10 wins. Bad season. Now, the reality is they are playing Tulane in New Orleans. They are going to Oklahoma State. They have to play JMU and Troy on the road. So the reality is they could lose all 4 of those ball games. I don't think that's going to happen. They should be really good. It'll be interesting to see on how they react from going to the hunter to the hunted. South Alabama has never been the hunted at any point in time when they've been in the Sun Belt. They have never been the hunted. They're going to be the hunted now. Troy, South Alabama, JMU, Marshall, and App State and Coastal, who have been kind of the hunted since Coastal the last few years for sure. So it is expectations versus reality. So this is the difference between South Alabama and the Cajuns. Like South Alabama's offensive line is basically set. They have a right guard position open, which I'm sure they're filling, but the right guard is moving to center, who left. That's it. Everybody else is coming back. Now, the Cajuns have an experienced line at everywhere besides right tackle, and actually the right tackle they're expecting back, Quentin Williams. They're expecting him back maybe by the time the season starts, but certainly in September if there's no issues moving forward. But South Alabama is like filling one wide receiver spot, and that may be filled by a transfer from Memphis. The leading returning receiver for the Cajuns is the tight end Neil Johnson. Now, he should get a lot more than 275 yards and a couple scores. Absolutely. But South Alabama is returning 2 of the top 5 wide receivers in the conference. Call and voice it. So I know they got to replace Jalen Wayne, the deep threat, but I think they have some guys that can do that. And again, they're bringing back, so they 18 out of 22 starters, and the 2 guys that got hurt, Keith Gallman started most of his career, and Wilt Vong is moving outside, actually, from an inside to outside. And he's got a ton of experience, although not at that position. So we'll see how he does rushing the quarterback. But that's the difference, that there's a lot of question marks, a lot of talent on the Cajuns, but a lot of question marks. South Alabama has very few question marks. Maybe a corner position. They got a ton of safeties. They got to find a corner replacing Darrell Luter Jr. on the 49ers and Jalen Wayne and a guard. I mean, think about that. That's their whole question. Maybe you got to build some depth, but also they want to get after the quarterback a little bit more. But those are the expectations versus reality. That's the way I see things. So we'll do more South Alabama next time around. For the Cajuns, though, it is, how much Ben Wolders is healthy, how good he is. If he plays like he had been in October and early November, and he does that out of the gate, this could be a great season for the Cajuns. If he's still a little gun shy because, the mental issues getting over the injury, it could be interesting, right? Again, Scott Watkins has Old Dominion beating the Cajuns. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but Scott thinks very highly of ODU, doing the same thing almost as Texas State, bringing in a high-powered offensive coordinator. They actually had a two-man QB battle. Now they're up to 3, apparently. So we'll find out more about that this week as well. Again, thank you so much for subscribing. Please tell your friends and family. Again, we were looking for like 3 subscriptions a day. We were down under 5, but we're back up to 5 a day, which makes a big difference. And if we can get even further and closer to 500, it is a big help. So thank you so much. We will be back all week long and doing the expectations versus reality game with all the teams, and we hope to have some guests as well. So thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm Dave Schultz. Enjoy your Sunday. We'll be back with you again on Monday.